Hello everybody, SlimKirby here. Welcome to a small preview video, if you will, of tomorrow's Let's Play Advance Wars. Tomorrow's episode, or tomorrow's mission rather, because it's obviously going to be more than one video, is essentially the final challenge of the entire game. It's not the last mission, there is one more mission, but it's kind of a, more of a reward than an actual, challenging mission, so it's obviously not going to give me very much trouble. But I did want to mention a few things about this mission in particular, because this mission is known for being very difficult, and it's also known for having a lot of different features. And the main part of this battle is the fact you can get extra allies, and the allies you get depend on certain in-game conditions you met throughout the campaign mode, and that is one of the main reasons why I'm making this video, to explain all of the possibilities, and then also, give my opinion of what the best possibilities are, and perhaps give you some strategies to use when you're going through this. So, if you want to ignore this video, go ahead and just wait till tomorrow. But for those of you who actually, are like this playthrough for the walkthrough aspect of the game, you may want to watch this video, because it has a lot of information that you could probably use if you ever decide to pick this game up in the future. Anyways, this is the final mission. The final mission is a 1 versus 3. Ironically, we are not the 1, we're actually part of the team of 3. Well, that does seem like we do have an advantage. If you actually look at Sturm's forces, you may want to think again, because Sturm has a pretty big force. He has a lot of properties, a lot of units, and he has a lot of bases and factories and funds, so he can even build even more units with all of the stuff he has at his disposal. So, right off the bat, this is a very, very challenging mission for that aspect alone. Now, thankfully, all the other COs have their own unique and distinct abilities that if we work together and we use those abilities just right, we can actually overcome Sturm's giant force. Now, let's actually get into the COs you can get for this mission, because I'm sure a lot of you are more interested in that information. And I'll probably mention a lot of this stuff later on tomorrow anyways, so let's just go ahead and get into that right now. First off, we have the middle force. The middle force is always going to be Andy. That doesn't change. You can't make it change. It's always going to be Andy. The game is programmed, so it will always be Andy. So Andy is one of the COs we're going to be using in this mission. Now, on the left side, you can actually get 3 different CO choices. You don't actually choose them, but as I said earlier, depending on what you've done throughout the game will determine what CO you get on the left side. On the left side, you can either get Grit, Max, or Olaf. To get Grit, in Mission 4 of the game, you have to choose Max's mission, or Max's battle. So, in Mission 4, if you choose Max, you will get Grit no matter what in this mission. Is that a bad thing? No, because Grit is a pretty good CO. He has far superior indirect powers, and for some places in the map, this map in particular, he can actually use those long-range abilities to actually gain a very distinct advantage. And the fact that his CO power actually makes his rockets go from range 6 to 8, that's just almost overkill. So it's not a bad idea to have Grit on your team. Grit is definitely far from a bad choice. He is a pretty good choice here. To get Max on this side, you have to choose Andy in Mission 4, but you can't do Mission 7 of Andy's path. So you can't do the mission called Olaf's Sea Strike. If you do, you will not get Max. Instead, you'll get Olaf. Anyways, as for Max, Max is a pretty good CO. He is probably, in my opinion, the best CO you can use for this side anyways. Max's firepower is just incredible. He can really take down Sturm's units with very... I don't know how to say this. He's good. He's good. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. He's good at taking down Sturm's units. The fact that he has really high firepower really does help. His CO power increases his movement as well as his firepower even more. So you really can't go wrong with Max. Max is a really good choice for this mission. Is it bad if you don't get him? Not necessarily. The other COs aren't necessarily bad either. But Max is generally the CO you'll probably want to aim for if you want a perfect playthrough of the entire game. Now, as I said earlier, to get Olaf on this side, you have to choose Andy for Mission 4, and then you also have to do Olaf Sea Strike. If you don't do Olaf Sea Strike, you get Max. If you do, you get Olaf. Olaf is a very well-balanced CO, and when he uses his CO power, he is very, very strong. However, his CO power actually cripples your other allies, because whenever he uses his CO power, he makes it snow. And while Olaf can move through the snow with ease, none of the other COs can. So while it will trip up Sturm, it'll also trip up your allies. So there is a very big disadvantage to having Olaf on your team. And because of that, he is probably the worst choice for CO on the left side. So that is just my opinion. Some may disagree, some may not think the snow disadvantage is really that bad, but it kind of is. Because you really don't want to cripple your own allies. That's just not cool. Now, the right side is a bit more complicated because, well, first of all, there are 4 COs you can get on the right side. And then there's also some very unique ways of actually getting them. The 4 COs you can get on the right side are Eagle, Conbay, Drake, and Sammy. To get Eagle, what you have to do is when you're doing the Green Earth missions, you have to choose Sammy all 4 times. You can't just choose her for the majority of the times or choose her for just one mission. You have to choose her all 4 times. If you don't do that, you won't get Eagle. To get Drake, you have to do basically the same thing, but with Andy. So you have to choose Andy all 4 times in the Green Earth missions. To get Conbay, and I should also mention that Conbay actually has higher priority over Drake and Sammy, so keep that in mind. But to get Conbay, you have to do the Sonya missions. If you don't do the Sonya missions, you will not get Conbay. And lastly, if you do anything else, if you don't do any of that other stuff, you will get Sammy no matter what. So Sammy is essentially the worst choice, or the most plain choice, or the normal choice. But depending on what you do, and if you meet some of those other conditions, you will actually not get Sammy and get someone else. But also, just to clarify, Conbay out-prioritizes both Drake and Sammy, but Eagle out-prioritizes everybody, so keep that in mind. First off, Sammy is not someone you want for this mission. She does not have very good firepower with anything but her mechs and her infantry, and it's just, she's not very helpful at all. I've beaten this mission with her before, and it took a long time, because Sammy just isn't that powerful, and she is definitely not the kind of unit you want for this chapter, so I heavily disagree with using Sammy for this mission. Drake is a little better. Obviously, Drake's power lies in naval units, which unfortunately you don't use in this mission, but you may want to consider him just for his CO power because it will cripple Sturm's army a little bit. However, I wouldn't say that you should use him, though. I'd recommend the other 2. Conbay, great choice. His units are very powerful. Just keep in mind he has the economic disadvantage, which can be kind of annoying to deal with. But he is a very powerful CO, so you can't really go wrong with Conbay. And Eagle is perhaps the most recommended just because his air units are really good. You'll be using air units on his side anyways. And he's just a good CO for this mission. And the fact that he also gets, an extra turn with his CO power, that's very helpful. So I definitely recommend Eagle for this mission. But that is basically all you have to do to get those COs. For this mission, I'm actually going to be using a combination of Grit and Eagle. Eagle, obviously, because I think he's probably the best CO choice on the right side. But the reason I chose Grit was because since had to show all the missions anyways, if I chose the Andy path, I would have gotten Olaf, which I didn't want to use. And I figured Grit was the better of the two units, so that's why I went with Grit and Eagle. But otherwise, that's about it for this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the final mission. Hopefully it goes well. Later, folks.